Alabama goes to LSU this coming Saturday, Death Valley under the lights, 7 Eastern time. Alabama is a 13-point favorite, but LSU been playing some really good football. There is a sort of swagger about LSU right now because they are a different team than what showed up against Florida State during week 1. Like, they've now kind of caught their tempo, it feels like, especially offensively. Scored 45 points each of the last 2 games. Jaden Daniels looks like a new man. He's now the catalyst behind this offense. A lot of reason for excitement around LSU right now. And the thought within LSU circles is, hey, why not? Why do we have to stop this momentum here? Let's keep rolling. As the old saying goes, we want Bama, right? Now, for Alabama, they are in hunting mode. Took that L to Tennessee, and they just absolutely imposed their will against Mississippi State. And I think the most dangerous thing for anybody is a motivated Nick Saban team. And that's what I believe you have right now in this matchup, a Nick Saban team that is out for it. All right? Hinge points in this game. Who lands the first punch? Because we've seen LSU at multiple points throughout the year have a slow start, battle back, be gritty, find a way to get it done. That's not the kind of way you want to live against Alabama. They're averaging 43 points per game. And if you spot them 10, if you spot them 14, that's a really tough race to try and catch back up in. They're much more potent than some of these other offenses that you've played against. You need to make sure that you draw first blood, get the crowd into it, whether it's a turnover, whether it's a big hit on special teams, whether it's a touchdown. Find a way to land that first punch on the jaw and kind of re-even the playing field, if you will, because that's going to be crucial in this game. Because like I said, if you wait till the second half to readjust, and Matt House has done a phenomenal job defensively for that program. I mean, Harold Perkins, certified dog. They got a lot of guys on that program that are going to be playing on Sundays. On the defensive side of the ball, B.J. Ojolari, absolute hound. But if you wait till the second half to adjust, it's not going to be a, hey, stop the bleeding situation. At that point, it's going to be, hey, stop the bleeding, but both your arms are chopped off. It's not a situation you want to have. Second question for me in this game, what happens when LSU puts the ball in the air? All right, what happens when Jaden Daniels, as he's done lately, unhitches the wagon and puts the ball up for insert receiver name here? I think there's 3 you got to look at. Keyshawn Boutte, Jure Jenkins, Brian Thomas. Both Thomas and Jenkins are a little bit taller in terms of kind of the big body wide receivers that LSU has. Alabama has shown on multiple occasions when the ball is in the air, they have not consistently played it well. They've grabbed jersey. They have gotten to the receiver too early. They have not gotten their head around, whatever it is. And that typically will draw a pass interference penalty. I don't expect this to be any different if that's the way this goes, if that's the way they want to play the ball in the air. And if that happens, again, 15 free yards, first of all. Second of all, there's also the opportunity for a big play. And if they can get some big plays, like we talked about going back to who lands that first punch, if that can be the counter that LSU has to the run game, is being able to put the ball up in the air, well, then this game gets a little bit interesting. Then you start to put the pressure back on Alabama. Again, Death Valley starts to get louder and louder, and you feed that powder keg, and it starts to set on fire. That could be intriguing. All right, something to keep an eye on. On the flip side, let's say that Alabama plays the ball well in the air. Let's say they're able to kind of have a no-fly zone kind of mentality, air traffic control. The secondary steps up to the challenge. They've heard all the chatter. They've heard people like me on the mic talking about what's the Alabama secondary going to do, and they just zip our lips. Well, then you force LSU to be more one-dimensional. Then you ask more of Josh Williams, and you ask more of Jaden Daniels. In the run game, you ask that offensive line that's playing 2 true freshmen to be the unit that forces the issue. I'm not saying LSU can't win that way. I'm just saying that's the way that Bama would prefer to play this game. And that's the odds they feel a little bit better about. And it definitely limits the tempo of this game. It takes that explosive element much more out of it. It does not favor LSU, to be clear. That definitely favors Alabama. Third thing we're looking at, who tees it up better for their quarterback? And Bryce Young has got a lot of guys around him. They have needed, in some scenarios, superhuman efforts from him. Look at the Texas game where he really willed that team to a win in Austin. Look at the game against Tennessee where he did just about everything he could and then some to make that team competitive in the closing seconds of that game. Do they help him? Is it Jahmyr Gibbs able to kind of carry the load a little bit more? Does the wide receiving core take a step up and allow a little bit more explosive plays to happen downfield to give them a lighter box? Does the defense create some more turnovers? Do they create some shorter fields? Because if you're just leaning on Bryce Young, I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm just saying that's not the kind of game you want to play if you're Alabama. With how well you've recruited, with all of the freak shows on your roster, it's time for some of those guys to assist Bryce Young. And if they can be multiple in that sense, it's going to be a long day for LSU. And that allows them to be more potent offensively. It allows the gameplay to totally shift. LSU has to play catch-up, try to keep pace with you. It's not the kind of game you want to play, all right? So that's important. I would argue it is more important for LSU to assist Jayden Daniels, because Jayden Daniels is very, very good. He's done a lot with his arm, done a lot with his legs. He needs this team around him to play really well. Probably their best game of the season on Saturday night. I'm talking Josh Williams has to probably be close to 100 yards yet again, and this defense has to get after it from the jump. They have to turn off that water early, because if they're able to avoid that recalibration period where Alabama gets up by 10 and then you're on the sideline trying to adjust and figure it out, well, then Alabama can just kind of stretch that lead while you're trying to figure things out. They're scoring more touchdowns. Not the game you want to play for LSU. So for Jayden Daniels, you need very complimentary football to be played around you. Just because of how good that Alabama personnel is, I think it matters more for LSU. Not saying they don't have good players. I'm just saying as a program, as a product, they're a little bit further along. They've got some guys that scare you, namely Jahmyr Gibbs, along with Bryce Young. So here's our prediction for this game. LSU is going to be a good football team. Brian Kelly has got that thing headed in the right direction. We have said it before on this program. If you're an LSU fan, it's like when you get on an airplane for the first time, you're on the tarmac. Are you already upset that you're not at your destination, or are you happy to be on the plane going the right direction? I think this is one of those games where you get to have a good litmus test. How far along are we as a program? How far off are we in year one? Done some really good things so far. We talked about it at the early part of this segment. They've done some really good things. With that being said, I think the personnel of Alabama and I think the gameplay Alabama is going to be able to implement is going to be, at the end of the day, too much for LSU. I think Jahmyr Gibbs has a big day. He's averaging 7 yards a carry. If he can be close to that, it's going to favor Alabama, needless to say. I think Alabama is too multiple. They end up winning this game. I think they win by 10. So I don't think they cover. I think they win this game 31-21 in Death Valley. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.